Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming by for this video. I'm really excited to make this video for you guys. About a year ago, I gave birth to my first and so far only daughter, Chloe Stella, and I would like to tell you guys all about the day that she was born. Before I do start talking about the day that she was born though, I have to be able to tell you guys a little bit about my pregnancy as backstory. So first I want to tell you guys that I was lucky and pretty much most of my pregnancy was complication free. Although I will say around 20 weeks and for the second half of my pregnancy, I did experience what is called SPD, which is basically a pelvic disorder where your pelvis sort of kind of pulls itself apart a little bit, and it is extremely painful, especially if you're sitting or standing for long periods of time. And obviously you can't lie down all the time. So it's pretty painful a lot of the time, especially like at the grocery store. I would be like, no, I need to go like lay down. But other than that, honestly, I had a pretty complication-free pregnancy. I did have a few random weird symptoms, like some food aversion. So I did not like eating avocados, which I love avocados normally. I did not like eating avocados. Eggs, which is another thing. I eat eggs almost every single day for breakfast, and I did not want anything to do with eggs. And I did not want anything to do with ground beef. Ground beef was the one that almost like made me throw up. Like it was so nauseating. Even walking past it at the grocery store, like I couldn't even walk over by that area. I would get like see a burger that someone was eating and I would immediately be like, no. So I actually ordered I was maybe 8 weeks pregnant, and I ordered a burger because I was really excited about eating it. It sounded so delicious, and I went to take a big bite out of it and I was like, oh no. And I handed it to my husband. I was like, please eat this, get this out of my face. And I ended up ordering a salad because I couldn't eat it. So yeah, those were my couple of random food aversions that I had. I also had an unusual sweet tooth. I don't normally like crave sweets. I mean, occasionally, obviously everybody wants like a little sweeter snack or something, but normally I'm not a big sweet tooth person. I'm more of like a cheese and salty type of person. So it was really weird that I had this huge sweet tooth. I wanted candy all the time, especially Butterfinger, Sour Patch Kids, vanilla ice cream with crushed up Heath bars on top of it. I wanted that all the time. Like I ate ice cream almost every single night of my pregnancy, and I never eat ice cream. I get it like once a month at the very highest that I would get ice cream, except when I was pregnant. Every single night I would send my husband out to the grocery store to grab ice cream if we didn't have any occasionally, which is hilarious because there wasn't many things that I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, I need you to go do this. But like every once in a while I just be like sitting on the couch and be like, do we have any ice cream? He's like, no. I'm like, would you want to go get me some? And of course he did, because he was just being really very nice about it. But yeah, so that was like my big cravings that I would have. Other than that, I didn't really have anything weird. I didn't want like pickles or anything, you know, that people talk about. Nothing odd, just sweets. So yeah, so it was pretty much normal pregnancy for the most part. I did end up gaining all the sweets. I ended up gaining 40 pounds, which was more than I wanted to. I really wanted to stick to that 25 to 35 window that they told me to stick to. But I ended up, especially in the last trimester, packing on the extra 5 pounds than I really wanted to. But it's really fine because my baby obviously turned out to be very healthy. And you know, if you've watched any of my videos, she's a great kid. So the extra 5 pounds, whatever. At the end of the day, who cares, really? It's not really the important part. The important part was that my daughter came out all right. So yeah, so then we had a pretty much normal pregnancy, which was, you know, pretty lucky for us, pretty uneventful. At about 39 weeks, I went in for my appointment and I was 1 centimeter dilated. I think I actually was 1 centimeter dilated at my previous appointment at 38 weeks too, but they said that's pretty normal, and nothing was really changing. So I wasn't expecting anything at all. I thought I for sure was going to go all the way to 40 weeks and, you know, who knows if I was even gonna have to get induced at 41 weeks or something like that. I didn't have any expectations. I did, however, a few weeks previously, I think around 37 weeks, I started drinking this raspberry tea, or raspberry leaf tea. It's not raspberry tea, it's raspberry leaf tea. It kind of tastes like a black tea. It's just kind of a basic, not really much of a flavor to it. Almost kind of like an English breakfast tea maybe, or something like that. But yeah, I started drinking that because I was told that that could possibly increase your ability to have a speedy labor, and it supposedly like tones your cervix. Who knows if that's actually, you know, true or not, but when we get through my story, you can tell me if you think it worked for me or not. So I drank that. I was doing a lot of squats every day. I was walking at least 3 miles a day with my mom, and I also was sitting on like one of those big exercise balls and just kind of like rolling and doing some like pelvic tilts and stuff. Just like anything I could think of that would maybe help to get things kind of rolling around down there, make it a little bit easier on myself for actual labor. Obviously never having been through it before, I really wanted to get myself as prepared as possible. So yeah, okay, so I think it was 39 weeks and 2 days. It was a Wednesday for sure. And I got a call from my cousin that morning, and she said, hey, would you mind picking me up? I have to drop off my car and get something fixed, and I need a ride back to my grandma's house where I'm meeting my brother, where she was meeting my other cousin. And so I went and I picked her up and took her to her grandma's. And while I was there, I, you know, hung out with them outside for a little bit, was chatting about stuff. And my cousin, her brother, actually said to me, oh my gosh, how funny would it be if in like 6 hours you call us and you're like, I had a baby. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I don't know if she's coming anytime soon. I haven't really felt anything going on down there. So he was just kind of kidding around. And then we went inside to so I could say hi to their grandma before I went home. And she was in the kitchen. We were hanging out in there, just chatting and kind of shooting the breeze. And, you know, one thing led to another. I was maybe standing there for 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden my water broke. And it's not like some people say where it's like a pop or you feel something. Like, I didn't feel anything. I did not hear a pop. I literally just felt a rush of warm fluid on my pants. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew that I didn't pee myself, but I know that people often think that they did. And in that moment, I thought in my head, this is why people think they peed themselves, because it felt like that could have happened. But I knew that that wasn't the case for me. I knew for sure. I was like, my water's breaking. So I just kind of stood there for a second, like, and I turned and I said, you guys, I think my water just broke. And we all looked down, and my jeans are just soaked down the 2 legs. Like, I look like in Billy Madison when they all pour water on themselves so that they make the little kid feel like he didn't pee themselves. Like, I looked like that. I had straight down the middle of my legs. And I was like, okay, all right, well, this is fun. So I was actually so calm though, like didn't freak out at all, like wasn't feeling any contractions or anything like that. I was just like, okay, well, this is happening. All right, let's do this. So I went into the bathroom to get cleaned up a little bit. I called my husband. He works like 45 minutes away from us, which is almost an hour away from our hospital. So I knew that he wasn't going to be back in time to take me to the hospital. So what I did is I had my cousin drive me in my car back to my house and drop the car off there. And then I had my mom pick me up. She lives literally a block away from me, so it was not that difficult. And so she came and picked me up and drove me to the hospital. And so we get to the hospital and they let me into triage. And at this point I was starting to feel contractions, but they were very minor. And I was like, all right, I can totally do this, because I thought for sure that I was not gonna get an epidural. I went in thinking like, I took the labor class, like I know how to do this, like I don't, I can have my husband bring me the labor ball and this will be fine, like, I've got this. And that's what I thought. But that is not what ended up happening. So a few minutes into my contractions, and I'm talking 15 minutes, maybe 30, but probably not even 30 minutes, my contractions started getting super hard, super fast, and super close together. They were hitting me like, when they say you get caught in the undertow of the waves and the waves just keep hitting you, and every time you get your head up, the wave hits you again. That's what my contractions were doing. And it was like, I couldn't even get a breath in between. Maybe my husband was saying, okay, you had like 30 seconds between that last contraction. And I would like, like, oh my gosh, okay, another one, I've got to prep up for another one, and couldn't even get myself prepped for the next one to hit. And so at that point I realized I really did want to get the epidural. It's a pain that I can't even remember. Honestly, I can't even wrap my head around it, but I know that it was that bad, thinking back and remembering what it was like to be in that situation. But obviously your body has a way of making you forget pain like that. So thankfully, or else maybe I wouldn't want to have any more kids, but no. Yeah, so yeah, I ended up saying, okay, I do want to get the epidural. And the thing about my hospital is they only have one anesthesiologist on staff at a time. So we were aware that if we didn't ask for an epidural ahead of time, that we were very unlikely to get one, because they put you on a list and they go in order, and there's no, secret way to get above them in the order. It doesn't matter how fast your contractions are, or how hard or how bad it hurts. It just, you get in the line and that's where you stay. And so I wanted to make sure that I did get my epidural in time. So I did put my name on the list, and luckily I did at the time, because they came in to check me and they said, all right, your water definitely broke. They used a little thing to like make sure that it was, and it like turned blue or whatever, like right away. And they're like, okay, your water definitely broke. You didn't pee yourself, which I knew. And they said, you're currently dilated to 4 centimeters, and a room just opened up. So we're gonna take you up into the labor and delivery room. So they wheel me up there, and they said, okay, well, there's actually a short line for the anesthesiologist today. So we're gonna check you again right now. We're gonna put you on a fluid drip, and you just have to finish this whole bag of fluids. And once this whole bag of fluids is done, then we can have the anesthesiologist come in and put in your IV or epidural. They have to put it, it's like a little needle that they put in, and they put this like flexible tube into your back, and that's how they administer the medicine. And so I was on the drip for a very short amount of time before my body just kind of like sucked it all up. And then they said, okay, we're gonna check you, and they checked me, and at that point I was 6 centimeters. So I had dilated another 2 centimeters since we were in triage, which had been maybe another hour, and maybe even less than that. And they said, okay, all right, well, we have to get your epidural in before you get to 7 centimeters. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. So they, I had no idea like how fast I was progressing or anything like that. Just knew what they were telling me. So they came in and they did like this whole, they have to give you a catheter when you're on an epidural because your body's numb. So they don't want you to just like pee all over the place. So they had to like do that. And then they had to put in my epidural. During this time, they asked my mom and my husband to leave the room, and they couldn't have a bunch of people in the room while it was going on. I'm not sure if it's like because of infection or just because it's too much noise and busyness and they're trying to be really careful by your spine, or I don't know what it was. But anyway, they asked them to leave. They do the catheter, they do the epidural, which was really, really hard. Because you have to stay completely still and you're kind of arched forward like that. Like you're like holding your knees and you're like arched forward, and you have to stay completely still during it. And as I told you, I mean, my contractions were boom, 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 boom. They were coming like crazy. And so it was like, I was shaking like so bad, but I was like, stay still, stay still, stay still. Cause I've heard horror stories of people's epidurals making only one side of their body numb, or like, things like that. And I was like, I don't want that to happen to me. Like I want this to work perfectly. So I just like mind over matter the situation, which I guess is probably what most women do when they don't get an epidural. They just mind over matter their contractions. But it was really tough. And so I did end up getting the epidural put in, and it went fine. And within a little while after that, I was, as soon as the medicine started to kick in, slowly I felt them less and less and less until I felt nothing at all, which was, whew, I'll tell you, that was nice. So once they had the epidural in, they came back in, the doctors and nurses, and they checked me again, and they said, Rachel, you're dilated to a 9 now. So I went from being dilated to a 4 in triage. An hour later, I was a 6 in labor and delivery after my epidural, which took maybe 35 minutes for the whole process of getting the epidural and the bag and all of that extra stuff that I had to do. So about 35 minutes later, and they said, okay, you're a 9. And So then they decided that they were going to call my doctor to come in, and he was on call. At this point, it was pretty late at night, and he even made a joke when he came in his street clothes. He like didn't even have his scrubs on yet or anything. He's like, let me check you really quick. He's like, oh, yep, you're a 10 now. And he's like, well, I was eating dinner with my family saying, oh, my patient, she's gonna be a few more hours. It's her first kid. I'll probably be getting a call at 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. And he was like, I was not expecting to have to leave the dinner table. And he was like, yeah, you're ready to go. And so he's like, give me 2 minutes to throw my scrubs on. And so he went and he threw his scrubs on and, got himself all washed up and ready to go. And it was like, I mean, this was crazy. It was like boom, 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 boom. And then he came in and I did push for about 20 minutes. And during that, 20 minutes, he was just coaching me, like telling me what to do. And the nurses were there. My mom and my husband were there. Everybody was kind of helping me out. And honestly, I kind of zoned everything out. And I just focused on like, I'm about to meet my baby girl. Like I can't believe I'm about to meet my baby girl. So I was focusing on that, kind of closing my eyes, and just like, I couldn't feel my body down like in that area. So I didn't know if I was pushing right, but I just kept doing what I was told to do, which was, I mean, basically they tell you to pretend that you're like going to the bathroom and that you're really pushing hard. So I just did that. And luckily I didn't poop myself, which some people do, which is fine if you do. I didn't do it. I did ask to make sure. Not that they would probably tell me, but I think my husband would have told me. And he said I did. So, and yeah. And then so within 20 minutes of pushing, her head was out. One more push, her shoulders and entire body were out. And they put her right away on my chest. And I didn't even care that she wasn't cleaned up or anything. I just wanted her skin to skin right away. I asked them to hold off on cutting the cord until it had finished pulsating, because I heard that if you do that, then they get a lot of the nutrients from the cord. And if you cut it too soon, then they end up missing out on some of those nutrients. So I wanted to make sure that she got those. So we did that while she was on my chest. They kind of started to kind of clean her up and stuff with the towels. And then once everything was good there, then they clipped the cord and took her over, got her weighed and stuff like that. And she started crying, which was so sad, but so adorable too. And then as she was crying, my husband said to her, like, it's okay, baby girl. And she heard his voice, knowing his voice from him, talking to my belly and talking the whole pregnancy. She actually turned her head and just looked at him and stopped crying. And it was the sweetest thing. I mean, she probably couldn't see him. She had goop in her eyes, and I don't even think that they can see that well at that point, that early in their life. But she heard his voice and turned towards him, which I just was the sweetest moment for him. And the nurses were all like, oh, and it was really cute. Yeah, so she ended up being 7 pounds, 2 ounces, and she was 21.5 inches long. And it was just an amazing, incredible experience. I mean, definitely extremely painful, and definitely very messy. But it was, oh gosh, it was so cool. And then we spent the next couple hours hanging out with her. They rolled us over to our recovery room, and our recovery room was really nice. It had like a couch that turns into a bed where my husband could sleep. And we were so exhausted. We didn't sleep at all that first night, like not a wink. And we just spent the whole night like staring at her, and like, I mean, we didn't even get into our recovery room until like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, maybe even later. But we couldn't sleep. It was just like, I was running on like crazy adrenaline. And yeah, so the next day, my in-laws, as soon as they found out I was in labor, they live out of town, about 5-hour drive, and they left their house and drove out here as soon as they found out I was in labor. And my parents obviously live right around the corner, like I said. And so the next day we had our parents come to the hospital and hang out with us and get to meet her and everything. My mom had met her the night before for a very short period of time before she had to go home, but it was really nice. And we kept it simple. We kept it just our in-laws at the hospital. A lot of people have everybody, friends and family and everybody, come and visit. And I've visited plenty of people at the hospital. But for us, we wanted to kind of keep it simple, and we wanted to have the visitors come visit us back at our house once we were a little bit more settled into the group of things, which actually worked out really well for us. And nobody was upset or offended or anything like that either. But yeah, it was really nice. And we had, you know, the photographer came in and took photos, which we weren't gonna buy. And then my mother-in-law ended up getting them as a gift for us because they were just so cute and adorable. Especially like, there's this one, I'll insert it right here, of my husband kind of holding her by the window, and like he's backlit, and it's just, oh gosh, so precious. So I don't know, it was such a wonderful, like awesome experience. And overall I was so happy. I ended up in labor for 6 hours and pushing for 20 minutes. So a total of 6 hours and 20 minutes from the moment my water broke to the moment she was born. 6 hours and 20 minutes on my first kid. Just like incredible. I mean, unheard of. People are like, wait, what? That's crazy. And my doctor even made the joke. He was like, yeah, we might want to schedule an induction for your second one just for the fact of you might end up having a baby in a car if you let your water break naturally. Which I probably won't schedule an induction, but it was just kind of funny. Like, okay, if the first one went like this, who knows what the next one's going to have in store for us. Ooh, or who knows, I could go like 41 weeks with the next one, you know? It's like so unpredictable. But honestly, I was so lucky and so blessed that it was like that speedy and quick of a experience for us. And, you know, looking back, it really was, it was great. I mean, take away the pain, obviously. Gosh, it was painful. But you have to take that out of the equation. That's gonna happen. I mean, that's life. But like, you have to take, you know, count your blessings. And we had plenty of them that day and still do. So yeah. So that is my birth story. And I kind of wish that I had been making videos at that time, because it would have been really cool to have some like footage from the hospital and like all that like craziness. And hopefully, you know, for future kids, like hopefully we'll be able to get that. But at least I have the story and I have the memory, and man, I mean, even a year later, it is ingrained in there. So I'm so glad that I was able to share this with you guys, and hopefully it was interesting for you. If you'd like to see more story times or me talking about things in my life, I've had a somewhat interesting life, but I have plenty of things I could talk about. So please let me know by liking this video, or giving me a comment below, and like, let me know what you'd like to hear about. Would you like to hear about how me and my husband met? Or would you like to hear about, you know, my experience in high school, or my experience working for a startup company, or switching from a startup company to becoming a makeup artist? I have so many different random stories in my life that I could definitely talk about. And I would love to hear from you guys on what you want to hear about, because what I find interesting might not be what you find interesting. So please let me know. Let me know in the comments below, and please do like this video. You can also subscribe to my channel. I make tons of content. I try and upload at least a video a week, and I make things from cleaning videos to travel diaries and everything in between. So thank you again for stopping by. I've had so much fun telling you guys this story. Okay, bye-bye.